All right, everybody. It is noon, and this is the Department of Internal Medicine Grand Rounds. I'd like for us to get started. Today, we will be focusing on the state of the affairs for the department. We had split this up into three sections. We had talked about education. Today will be research. Coming up will be clinical as we move on. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items. We are still under a virtual environment, and just wanted to make sure people know to use the chat and the Q&A function. If you have questions, we will make sure we get them to you all. If you need technical assistance with the Zoom, we have Allison Dubinsky on the line. You can chat to us, her, or to me, and we will help you out. The CME code will be posted in the chat in a second. So if you did not catch that already, we will make that available in the chat, as well as the New Innovations QR code will be available at the end of the presentation as well. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers for today. Today we are joined by our chair, Dr. Patricia Sime, Dr. Fadi Salloum, and Dr. Richard Sterling. So the talk today will be, as you see on the screen, the state of the department as it relates to research. Dr. Patricia Sime is a physician scientist who received her MD training at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. She pursued specialist training in pulmonary medicine in Edinburgh before traveling to McMaster University in Ontario, Canada, to train in the science of inflammatory and scarring lung disease. Dr. Sime has received numerous awards for mentorship and scientific achievements. She has published over 150 manuscripts and successfully been continuously funded by the NIH, along with other foundations and philanthropies. 2019, she came here to VCU to assume the position of chair. She has a strong interest in supporting the next generation of researchers, educators, and clinicians. Dr. Fadi Salloum is our professor of medicine in the Division of Cardiology here at VCU. Currently serves as the associate chair of research for the department. He earned his doctorate in physiology from VCU with postdoctoral training in molecular cardiology in 2008. He holds an affiliate appointment in the Department of Physiology and Biophysics and was named the inaugural Natalie N. and John R. Congdon Senior Endowed Chair at the VCU Poly Heart Center in 2018. In 2016, Dr. Salloum received a Distinguished Research Award from the department in recognition of his research accomplishments. In 2020, Dr. Salloum received the Excellence in Scholarship and Research Award from the department. His current research is focusing on cardiac injury, inflammation, and failure. His major interest is in developing novel pharmacological strategies to combat adverse cardiac remodeling that leads to heart failure. As a principal investigator, he's currently funded by grants by the NIH, including the prestigious 7-year NHLBI R35 award. He's authored or co-authored more than 100 articles and published in high-quality peer-reviewed biomedical journals, including Circulation, Journal of the American College of Cardiology, and Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. He's very passionate about mentoring and training the next generation of researchers here at VCU. Dr. Richard Sterling is a professor of medicine in the Division of Gastroenterology, Hepatology, and Nutrition. He received his medical degree from Jefferson Medical College in Philadelphia and completed his internship, residency, and fellowship here at VCU. Dr. Sterling is board certified in gastroenterology and transplant hepatology and has a master's degree in biostatistics and clinical research from VCU. He's currently section chief of hepatology and medical director of the viral hepatitis and HIV liver diseases, the past gastroenterology and transplant hepatology fellowship director, and the associate program director for scholarship and research for the core internal medicine residency program. His research interests are in viral hepatology, hepatitis, and HIV liver disease, supported by several NIH grants, and he is the site PI for the Hepatitis B Research Network and PI for the HALT-C trial, both sponsored by the NIH. He recently completed an R01 investigating hepatitis B viral in those co-infected with HIV, and currently is the site PI on the R01 fatty liver in persons living with HIV and cirrhosis as part of the Liver Cirrhosis Network sponsored by the NIH. He has published over 220 manuscripts, several book chapters, and served some prominent committees, both at the AGA, ACG, as well as ABIM, and has served on study sections at the NIH. He's won numerous awards for teaching and leadership and was voted a top doc in 2012 and 2013 here in Richmond. welcome all three of you. We look forward to your presentation on research. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Salloum and Dr. Sime. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you for those kind introductions. So really it's a pleasure to be able to give everybody an update on, I think, really some of the amazing achievements in research. And I think they're very impressive achievements, and even more impressive since all of this has been done in the middle of a pandemic. And I wanted to wish everybody a happy National Internal Medicine Day, which is today. So we just sent out a picture of some folks at work, and hope you'll enjoy that. Thanks for all you do. And I also want to just take a minute at the start of this to really express my thanks to Fadi, Salloum and Rich Sterling, and previously to Antonia Batty for their tremendous leadership of the department in terms of research. I think they've been enormously important as champions of research themselves, but also bringing us together in difficult times when we couldn't necessarily do all the research we wanted during the pandemic. I think they've really helped, keep us moving forward, and you're going to be impressed today at the amount of work that people have done across our department in terms of scholarship. And they really take these positions seriously. They spend a lot of time and effort trying to keep us all up to date with everything that's going on in the health system and with the NIH and everywhere else. So I really appreciate their passion for science and their passion to help the department, reach our full potential. So with that, I am going to let Fadi take over, but I'm very excited about today and very grateful to everybody for your interest in scholarship. It's really what makes us stand out as an academic medical center alongside our education programs and the clinical programs, which you'll hear more about. Thanks, Fadi.
Thank you, Tricia. So good afternoon, everyone. This is just a disclosure slide, nothing related to this topic. I'll go quickly over the objectives that we had set for today. And the first is to recognize the clinical and basic translational research effort and achievements and their impact on training and as well as patient care. Second is to understand the changes in clinical research policies within the Department of Internal Medicine. And that includes institutions of some new initiatives like the Protocol Review Oversight Committee, enhancing student opportunities, and also regulatory requirements for cohorts discovery. And finally, we'll discuss future plans to further enhance the alignment of the Department of Internal Medicine research infrastructure with the One VCU initiative that was announced last week. Now, when we talk about research in the Department of Internal Medicine, yes, when people think of internal medicine, it's a clinical department. But we always like to remind people that our department is comprehensive in its research endeavors and efforts. And that ranges from basic science research all the way to clinical research and clinical medicine. And we've all heard about this gap between basic science or bench research and clinical research. And we are aware of this gap. And unfortunately, we've been hearing about this gap, or at least I've been hearing about this gap for as long as I've been in research, and the gap still exists. So we are truly putting a lot of effort to try to bridge this gap with the strength of our translational research that we have at VCU. And we're extremely fortunate that VCU is funded by a CTSA that helps merge the two together in order to get the best outcomes possible between basic science discoveries and how to best translate them to clinical research. But beyond translating or bridging the gap between bench and bedside, our department is also very interested and making a huge effort in order to translate that also to the community. So we're working on enhancing our community engagement. And the plan here, or the goal, is to have excellent community engagement with our local community or patients, and hope to become a model that can be adopted elsewhere as well. So beyond bench to bedside, our plan is to go to the community and then back. So for those of you who were able to attend the One VCU Research Initiative last week by President Rao and Vice President Rao, that was a very, very interesting and exciting endeavor to watch, because to hear the president of the university talk about plans to promote growth, to position VCU not just as our own research and to grow our own research, but to make it the model of a public research university nationwide. This is really a very, very impressive goal to set, and hopefully all the resources and the support are actually being put in place in order to back this endeavor up. And also we heard about the plans to be strategic and accommodate and encourage the rapid growth that we have seen in research. So VCU Research Enterprise continues to grow, especially over the last several years. And with growth comes a few challenges. And the plans here basically involve discussions on how to be able to best accommodate that growth and continue to encourage that rapid growth rather than be an obstacle in its way. So it's a very positive message that was sent by the President and the Vice President for Research. Support collaboratively driven research. We always talk about collaboration, and we like to help and promote this collaboration, not only within departments or within divisions, but even across departments and across both campuses at VCU. And now there are plans that are being implemented in order to help make that happen much better than it is already happening. And from what we heard from Vice President Rao, the success of this plan is going to have a huge impact on our faculty. So it's not only to grow the research mission and get more research funds, but also to make our faculty do their job more effectively and efficiently. And what we heard last from President Rao, which was more pertinent to our department being a clinical department, is we know the important goals of research to develop means to cure more diseases, but this goes more towards the community engagement and how we can make an impact locally and hopefully nationally, is to find ways to get medicines to people who cannot get them today, who are dying in their communities. And that's a very, very important goal that we also adopt within our department, and we hope to help the success of this overall target. Before we go into the details of all the accomplishments and the structures within the department, I would like to, on behalf of the leadership team, extend a special thank you to Dr. Antonio Abate, who was the immediate past Associate Chair for Research, for all the amazing modifications and changes to facilitate research within the department, both clinical, translational, as well as basic. His involvement with the CCTR, with the Poly Heart Center, being an accomplished researcher himself, helps understand the research mission and all the potential challenges and limitations, and also how to best overcome them. So thank you, Antonio, for building a great structure for Richard and I to continue to build upon. So towards the end of 2020, I was appointed as the Associate Chair for Research, and Richard Sterling joined the team as Assistant Chair for Research. We work very closely together. In fact, we meet every Monday morning to go over any pressing issues that are impacting research in the department, any potential for improvement, and we have plans that we keep modifying as we go in order to tackle things one thing at a time. Of course, as Richard always says, we can't fix everything at the same time, so we try to be very strategic in how to plan those changes as we go. So some of the highlights that you'll hear about today: we're going to welcome some new team members, talk about some research successes, some challenges, who some might like to call opportunities, the impact of COVID-19. Unfortunately, we're 21, almost 22. We're still dealing with this pandemic on research. The Department of Internal Medicine initiatives, including the pilot grant program that we have, quality and efficiency in research, the new drive to promote and encourage training grant submissions, as well as network or program grants, the impact of philanthropy on our research, and finally, we'll talk about the importance and how to promote collaboration. First, I'd like to welcome Marie Crack, who joined us earlier this summer. She is a grant/scientific writer I have interacted with Marie on several occasions so far. She is extremely helpful, always open to assisting any of our faculty. We listed her email here, as well as a link to a RedCap that she put together. And that would be the best way to submit your requests. If you need help with a grant, if you need help with a paper or manuscript that you're working on, or even a simple abstract, whatever it is that you think you can benefit from her expertise, please reach out to her directly. I would also like to welcome Jennifer McClenny, who's the administrative specialist for the Department of Internal Medicine Associate Chairs, mostly focusing on research and faculty development. So anything pertaining to research, any questions, anything that you have in mind, please make sure to contact Jennifer or reach out directly to myself or Richard. Now, let's see what our department has done over the past 3 years. I'm glad to report to you that we continue to see significant growth in our research funding. So if we look back at 2019, where we had $19 million in overall funding across the department, that went up to almost 25 million in 2020, and then 27 million in fiscal year 21. This is an impressive growth. Now, keeping in mind that we had the pandemic hit, in early 2020, we continued to see growth. And despite that, and the waves that we've been through with COVID-19, we continue to see growth. So congratulations to all of you. This shows the resilience and the tremendous efforts that our faculty continue to put in, and how we always try to look for continue to focus on our goals rather than worry too much about the obstacles or the problems that we face. So congratulations again. This is showing the number, the overall number of sponsored funding for FY21, broken down by division. We still have the big players like GI and cardiology, but I'd like to highlight here that we saw tremendous growth in other divisions, and we hope to continue to see this growth. So all the divisions would be almost at that impressive level. So we saw growth in rheumatology, we saw growth in nephrology, we saw growth in hemonc, general medicine. So we hope that everybody who's involved in research in those divisions and all other divisions, please continue to be encouraged, and let the leadership know what we can do to help or make your research experience better. If we look at the funding awarded by sponsored type for FY21, industry comprises about 54%, whereas overall federal funding, that includes NIH, college, university, subawards, and others, about 32%. So that's, again, a very impressive breakdown for the sources of funding that we get within our department. Despite the pandemic, our research submissions and proposals continued to go up, despite having restrictions and some concerns whether whether some of the procedures that may be involved in some of the research trials or the clinical trials may be impacted by COVID and need special means. So a lot of the studies were put on hold, and some others were delayed to be initiated. Yet our faculty found ways to go about that and be able to continue to submit grants. So we have a total of 203 submissions compared to FY20, where we had 191. So congratulations again for the continued efforts in putting your research or scientific ideas together and being able to successfully submit those proposals despite all the hardships. As far as the metrics of productivity, looking at publications, and the source here, the best we can get is from FAIRS. It shows an impressive number of 892 publications in FY21. I'd like to highlight that this is not a fully accurate number. It's actually, I would suspect it's probably 15 to 20%, if not more, above that. And the reason is some of the departments, some individuals probably are not as active in including all those publications and fairs. Now that we had revamped fairs, hopefully this will go live soon over the next year. We will be able to capture more information in fairs rather than waiting for people to be able to actually extract these data on regular basis. So we hope to get better numbers, but nonetheless, this is a very impressive number of publications. Presentations, including invited lectures or seminars, oral papers, other presentations, some plenary session speakers, 239 in FY21. And remember, travel was restricted tremendously during this time. A lot of conferences were virtual. Some people chose not to go, yet our faculty was still highly sought after in order to give talks and other types of oral presentations. Now, the impact of COVID prompted a lot of our investigators, even some of our faculty members who are not in infectious disease, to actually roll up their sleeves and try to see how they can best help. So this actually brought VCU to the news. And I'm not talking about the clinical mission here because this is for another day, but I can say thank you nonetheless to all the providers who continued to work relentlessly despite the risks, the unknowns of COVID at the very beginning. But today I'd like to highlight some of the research that made it to the news. And why is that important? Because if VCU contributed more COVID trials, that means that our patients had more options within our community. Number of COVID trials at VCU total is 21. The number of trials led by Department of Internal Medicine faculty is 17. This is highly impressive. Even our Senior Associate Dean for Research, Dr. Michael Donnenberg, decided to initiate a promising trial given his background in infectious disease. Everybody jumped in. Dr. DeWitt began a trial on the same 2-drug cocktail as treatment for hospitalized COVID-19 patients. From the Virginia Department of Health COVID-19 serology project, the total enrolled was 4,675 subjects. VCU enrolled 884. The findings were released in JAMA. Dr. Bierman, who heads our infectious disease division, was the PI on that. And to the right, you see the Richmond Times Dispatch showing Drs. Abate, Sanyal, and DeWitt basically for leading the medical center's clinical trials to try to find treatments for COVID-19. So thank you to all of our providers, those who are highlighted here and those who work behind the scenes to make all this possible. We also have some great noteworthy achievements. Some of them, 2 of them in fact, are first of their kind in the state. I was very fortunate earlier this year in January to be awarded the prestigious 7-year, $5.4 million NHLBI R35 grant to study cardiac toxicities of cancer therapy. The interesting thing about funding this program is that it's not a project, and it will further allow collaboration between the Poly Heart Center and Massey Cancer Center, being a cardio-oncology project. Dr. Rob Wynn was very recently awarded a highly competitive NCI SPORE grant to translate research findings quickly from the laboratory to patients to address disproportionate effects of lung cancer on the Black community. This is the first ever, again, awarded in the state of Virginia. Mike Stevens and Michelle Dole were awarded a 2-year, $6 million grant from VDH to establish a statewide infection prevention center, training center. Thank you for your efforts, basically, to put this program together. This will be of tremendous help for the state and hopefully would be adopted nationwide. Dr. Sanyal and Bajaj were awarded a competitive liver cirrhosis network U01. Now, these are just a few examples. We have tons more. In the interest of time, we can't go over them. But again, as you see from the numbers that I went over earlier, our department has done a fantastic job despite all the restrictions and the difficulties that we faced over the past 18, 20 months. Clinically, our investigators led most of the COVID-19 trials. As I mentioned before, And we also have some other investigators who led most of the COVID-19 registry research, including Dr. Albaisi and Samial, Dr. Sime and Kate. And non-COVID-19 clinical research was impacted significantly, especially where restrictions were implemented. But those gradually resumed, over phases after carefully easing the restrictions. As far as basic translational research, the activities continue to progress in accordance with the guidelines that we received from the Office of the Vice President for Research and Innovation, as well as the School of Medicine Senior Associate Dean for Research. Currently, there are no serious restrictions, and research operations have almost gone back to normal, minus a few restrictions with undergraduate students, for example, from other campuses being unable to come into the lab in person. But we are finding ways around that by doing some remote work with some of the summer programs that we have with other universities. Department of Internal Medicine investigators, despite all these restrictions, have maintained an impressive profile of grant submissions and publications over the past year or year and a half. For this, the research leadership would like to thank all the investigators, trainees, and staff for the exemplary team effort, professionalism, and adherence to guidelines. This wouldn't have been possible without everyone working together to make things happen, without having any issues or any cases that further restricted the work that we do. Now, the pilot grant program within the department was initiated in 2017. That was the inaugural year where we awarded 10 applications. 80% of those resulted in external grant submissions, and 40% resulted in extramural funding, which was impressive return on investment. In the following years, we have awarded 3 grants per year in 2018, 2019, and 2020. Last year's theme was focused on COVID-19 and health disparities, and those research trials are still ongoing, and we just heard about them at our progress meeting, which took place a few days ago. And in 2021, we're expecting to fund 3 to 4 new awards, and something new, we have one in partnership with the Poly Heart Center to look at cardioimmunology as a theme. And the funding decisions should be coming out soon. The Department of Internal Medicine summer student grants, those are faculty-driven grants, $2,000 to $2,500 stipend for students to do summer research. That was on hold for the past couple summers. We hope to resume in summer of 2022 if things are much better, and we do hope that things will be better with the pandemic next year. The KL2 Scholars Program. This is a 30-month career development program within the CCTR for assistant or associate professors that provides 75% protected time. Dr. Nana Singham is the director of the educational core. They provide 3 per year across VCU, both campuses. And we are very fortunate that one of our very own in the Division of Cardiology, Dr. Wendy Botner, was the recipient of the KL2 Scholar Award this year. Congratulations to Wendy. The mentoring program, again, was implemented several years ago within the department. So that offers structured grant writing and review programs offered in partnership with the CCTR. The mentoring team includes Drs. Abate, Shelley, Nana Singham, Sterling, and myself. And we have a lot of other mentors that are primary mentors for people that we also mentor as a team. And we come together often in order to discuss progress and make sure that things are going, very, very smoothly. Dr. Lee Kang is a biostatistician who is available for our department. Used to be 50% of his time, but we adjusted that to 40% to open up a position for a master's level biostatistician, which is currently being filled, and interviews are underway, and Richard Sterling and myself are involved in this process. Quality and efficiency in research. Initiatives within the CCTR to improve scientific review committees, as well as IRB experience. Those are ongoing efforts. We have made a lot of improvements over the past couple of years, but we do understand that there are more needed. And Mary Harmon has been instrumental, who is basically at the VCU Health Clinical Research, and she's been working tirelessly in order to facilitate research. And you'll hear more about that in just a little bit. So the new IRB structure now has 3 panels, one dedicated to COVID-19 related issues, one to clinical trials or research, and one to behavioral research. Having talked about clinical research, and you'll hear a little bit more about the challenges and how we're working all the time to try to make things better. So I will turn it over to my colleague and now friend, since we meet every week, at least once, Dr. Richard Stern.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so someone else will have to guide the slides. So
I will.
There's been several challenges in clinical research that everyone is well aware of, and some of them are listed on this slide. Our process is often fragmented and not patient-centric, and it doesn't then facilitate the robust alignment of the business intelligence, collaboration among the team members, and engagement of both patients and the health system. A lot of our research, such as QI projects, weren't really captured by our current method, so the productivity of the faculty was not really accurately reported. Low enrollment often led to significant consumption of costly resources and buildup of debt, which then fell back on the divisions and the department. Our clinical trial menu didn't really serve the patient community. That then led to low enrollment, which could ultimately hurt both VCU Health as well as the clinician's reputation, and then patients may not want to participate here, and it also could limit treatment options for patients. And then resource management, which includes the personnel and the financials, often remains a challenge. So next slide. So when Fadi and I took over this process, meeting with Dr. Sime, we thought that we needed to change. And one of the things and I've been here for over 20 years, but we wanted to place the responsibility for the development of clinical trial portfolio back to the division level and decentralize a lot of it. We wanted to identify facility, contractual resources, and the financial challenges early on in the review process, so investigators won't get frustrated when things don't work out the way they hope that they would. We wanted to find ways to manage our resources wisely, particularly by eliminating financially unfavorable trials, particularly ones that are really low enrollers. I've always said, if you want to cure a disease, just try to study it, and all the patients that you thought you would have are no longer there, but we wanted to make sure that we stayed on top of that. We wanted to facilitate the communication between the clinical and the research teams. And ultimately, this would lead to growth of the research enterprise within the department by raising the quality and expanding our clinical trials to offer our patients. Next slide. So as part of that process, something that wasn't necessarily new in concept, but new to VCU, was this thing called the Protocol Review and Oversight Committees, or Procs. And these are therapeutic area working groups consisting of scientific subject matter experts, which is you, who collaborate with the institution to try to focus on disease-specific clinical research. Next slide. So this is really what happens with this Proc flowchart, and any of you that have submitted research in the last couple of months are more familiar with this. And so you develop your own individual study teams. And now what we're asking is that you submit very brief information, doesn't take long, to the VCU OneTrack Database. And I'll show you that website in a second. And this would include evidence-based and quality improvement projects, because those often don't necessarily need to go to the IRB, but we do need to keep track of what you all are doing, so we can give you the credit, or we can take the credit for the work that you do. Once it then goes into the OneTrack database, it's assigned to one of 4 Procs, which has members of the clinical, which are the faculty who are the content experts in that area, but it also gets a review by operations to make sure that we can actually do the study, we have the resources to do it, and the facilities to do it where you want to do it, so that everyone is sort of on the same page. And the goal of that submission to approval process goal is less than 5 days, and we're pretty much on track to do that. If everybody is scored from 0 to 2 in each of these 3 areas, and if everyone gets a score of 2, then it's approved, and you then are able to then go ahead and notify and approve, get your application submitted to the IRB. It's our hope that once we switch to Epic, that the information that you put in this application will automatically go into your IRB smart form, so you do not have to reproduce that. If the score is not a perfect score and there's an issue, maybe perhaps you thought that you needed a study coordinator and there's not a study coordinator identified, that's been a frustration for everybody. We will then work with your division chair to try to identify and overcome any hurdles so we can go ahead and approve your project. And if the score is really something is wrong with your proposal, then we may come back to you and ask you to try to fix things, because ultimately we want you to succeed. Next. So listed here are the different Proc committee structures, and you can see we have 4 Procs: cardiology, hepatology, and GI, and then we have 2 others that include the other divisions. You can see that each Proc has a chair and also members who review the protocols. And again, this process for us, for me, doesn't take very long. I can usually review a proposal in 5 to 10 minutes and move things along. If for some reason there's an issue, I can work with you to try to solve it so we can move things along. Next slide. So again, each Proc committee has their own OneTrack database that is managed by Mary Harmon, and we get reports. Each committee sort of works on how they want to do it. So far, we've been meeting monthly on Zoom just to discuss any issues. Shown there is the OneTrack database, onetrack.vcu.edu. You then click on it and you ask for internal medicine, and then it'll let you know which Proc that you're going to be going to. Again, and the amount of time it takes to submit this should only take a couple of minutes if you already kind of know what your study is going to be. And this will really allow us to track reportable metrics. We'll be able to see how studies are enrolling, because this will also work with Encore, and particularly we'll be able to provide you as the PI some feedback every 6 months about how your enrollment is doing, how your financials are doing, so that if for some reason your study is getting into a deficit, we'll be able to identify that early and work with you. And again, ultimately, this should be able to interface with RAMS, IRB, and Epic. Next slide. So this has just started in July, and this is just a data through early October. And you can see, based on the 4 Procs, these are the number of submissions to each Proc. This has already changed in the last couple of weeks. But as you can see, a lot of the studies that are submitted to Procs are shown in the blue part of the stack bars, and they're investigator initiated. NIH trials are fewer and far between, but I know that there are several NIH trials that will be submitted soon. So we'll be able to then, track this along. All right, next. The other thing that we've been working on is trying to diversify and increase the ability for both undergraduate students and medical students to work with our faculty. And this is a big important point of both the health system and the CTSA. And so there are a lot of students, both medical students and undergraduates, who love to do research with our faculty, but we found that there wasn't a good way to link the student with the faculty who's interested. And so I worked with Herb Hill on the main campus, and we developed a Student Opportunity Center. This is an automated process where you can just list who you are and what type of level of training you want to work with and what you want to put into it. And then students also then have an opportunity to put their portal to see what they want out of the experience. And then students maybe then allow you to contact you as the investigator to see, whether you want to work with them. I've sent out some emails before, and there's going to be another email coming out next week, which asks you to go onto this website as faculty. It just takes a couple of minutes for you to put in what type of student you want to work with, whether it's an undergraduate or a medical student, and what you're willing to sort of provide for them. Is it, and what type of research experience, whether it's lab experience, translational, or clinical experience. The students will be responsible to get a city training and EPIC training. So that's not your responsibility. So far, we have about 80 faculty within the Department of Medicine that are willing to work, and we're hoping to enhance that. Fadi and I met with about 50 M1 and M2 students earlier in the week. So there's a great interest for medical students to want to work with our faculty, and they want to start that process early on in the fall of their first year, so they can start to set up what they're going to do in the summer between the first and second years. One of the issues that have come up recently in the health system is that we had an audit, and it turns out that the health system was not really felt to be in compliance with how we as investigators are accessing charts to potential either retrospective studies or doing cohort discovery studies to see if patients are there. So this is a VCU health requirement. It's not an IRB requirement, but if you submit to the IRB, they're going to ask you for this. So this is if either you do a Trinetic search yourself, or probably better is to go through this informatics.vcu.edu. If you go to that website, you then click on support related, and then you then click on research support. And there's a very simple red cap form that you need to complete. And it's really asking you what is the type of patients or the disease that you want to try to study. And that then lets the health system know that you're interested in looking at that. Even if you already know the patients, you've already collected, you have a list internally that you've collected, the IRB still wants you to go through this informatics process to make sure the health system knows that you've done that. If you actually want the list of patients, once you submit it to the Proc and submit it to the IRB because you want to identify data, this then allows you to access the list of identifiable subjects. As I've mentioned in the Proc submission process, if you're looking at de-identified non-human subjects research and you're just looking at collective summary data, the Procs will be able to give you approval to do that, and you will not have to submit that to the IRB. And we've already had that happen once so far, and hopefully that will be able to increase, particularly with QI projects and retrospective collective studies. So I just want to make you aware of that. One of the questions we often get is, I need some biostat help. And there's two different ways that you can do that. One, you can go through the Wright Center, and they can help you with study and trial planning. They can collaborate, with you on a data management and statistical analysis. They provide free one-on-one consultations, particularly if you're trying to design your study. And they also provide workshops. And so their websites are listed on here. And these have also gone out several times to the Department of Medicine listserv. Next slide. You can also use the VCU Biostatistical Consulting Laboratory. And again, that provides free consultation for our members. It's very good, particularly if you're trying to plan your study. What type of data do you want to collect and how do you want to collect it? They may be able to help you with your red cap of how you want to establish that. And this is often led by graduate students under the mentorship of the Department of Biostat's a faculty, and I listed you the website there. And this is a great way to increase your collaboration. And I have used this many times for my studies and for my grants. Next slide. So one thing I do want to mention is the engagement of our faculty with house staff. And this is a list. It's was given to me by Catherine Good in the GME office. And these are the faculty that have mentored interns, residents, and fellows through 2020 through 2021. And you can see a lot of our faculty are doing that. And as shown in the orange, many faculty have worked with many house staff over time. And I'd like to express my appreciation. I think the research that our house staff are doing is really phenomenal. Many of them do get dedicated blocks of research. And for those of you who have mentored those, I really appreciate that. Hopefully this list will continue to grow. Next slide. So I'll give it back to Fadi.
Okay, so just a quick comment about research space. So in over the last year, there was a charge to look more carefully at wet research space and how it's utilized. So the Department of Medicine within the school, and that was basically an endeavor from the School of Medicine. Our department has 18,940 square feet of wet lab space assigned, excluding Massey, and the lab space review was recently conducted, and the review mostly focused on adjusting space for faculty based on research funding support, and the formula that was utilized was $250 of direct cost of your funding per square foot. And I'm proud to report that the results were actually very impressive for our department, whereby the department did not receive any letters to give up lab space, back to the School of Medicine. However, there were some shifts within groups of certain divisions, where we were able to redistribute the space within those divisions based on funding level changes within the investigators, but we did not lose any of our space. So that shows that we have all the funding necessary to keep and maintain our space. And in fact, in FY22, the department is considering to submit a request for additional 1,293 square feet based on current awards. Looking forward, in addition to administrative support, grant scientific writer, and hiring a lead clinical coordinator, the Department of Medicine is looking to fill the following. Now, we recently decentralized the coordinator, the research coordinator pool that was implemented to serve the entire department. We went back to the research intensive divisions handling their own, such as cardiology, GI, etc. And then we will maintain a pool for the other divisions within the department. So we're still looking to hire a regulatory coordinator to help with R&B submissions, clinical research coordinators to add to the pool, and the research administrator. We have 3 positions open to help with pre and post award. The pool, of course, will continue to be modified or grow to accommodate research needs as they continue to grow as well. So we always want your feedback to know how to best justify those positions and keep, making sure that we have the right number of staff. And we also have plans to relaunch our Department of Internal Medicine research newsletter. Any ideas for a catchy title are welcome. We're still thinking about it. Richard and I, we didn't have a chance to come up with one yet, but if any of you has any thoughts, please reach out. Training and network or program grants. Our investigators are very, very successful in R01 type grants, industry grants, but the department overall is not very strong when it comes to training grants or to program project grants. So this is something that our leadership team has been trying to encourage and support over the past few years. And now we have a funded cardiology postdoctoral T32. Dr. Hundley is the PI on that. We have another one in cardiology for pre-doctoral trainees that was recently resubmitted and pending review. There's another one in cardiology that's an undergraduate R25 for underrepresented minorities to be engaged in research that's currently pending council review, which, was yesterday, but it did receive an outstanding score, so we are extremely hopeful. Pulmonary critical care, T32 to be submitted soon. And we're encouraging our junior faculty and preparing more workshops and helping them learn more about K awards that would fit their subspecialties or backgrounds. Again, NIH PPGs are currently being planned in at least a couple of our divisions. The Wright Center Rural Pilots Voucher Program. The goal here is to support activities, proposals evaluating innovative digital health methods for research participant engagement and recruitment in hard-to-reach rural patient populations. It's about up to $25,000 per project, and it applies to a lot of the services, including devices, equipment, patient recruitment activities, research coordinator salary, etc. It will go live in fall of 2021, Actually, it's about to go live, I think, in November. You can reach out to Mary Harmon with any questions about that as well. But this would be very helpful to supplement any ongoing trials that you have funded with additional funds to make your research even better. Philanthropy and its impact on research. The department now has a dedicated senior director of development. That's Priscilla Cash, and that's her contact information. Karen Mills, of course, continues to work closely with the department, mostly focused on the Polyheart Center, but also helps our department a lot. Just to give you some examples about the tremendous work that people like Priscilla and Carrie do all the time, and how important it is for us to appreciate that and continue to be engaged in whatever supports their mission. Most of the recent large gifts include the $5 million anonymous gift to support pulmonary, $1.3 million from Kathleen Gurn to support CVID research and the Massey Cancer Center, $750,000 anonymous research support cardiovascular research, and then $500,000 from Bill McAllister to support the Polyheart Center and Massey Cancer Center. Those are just some examples in the recent year. And finally, how does that put us together? From help from philanthropy, initiated the renovation of the Surgical Innovation Suite up on Sanger 9. And this is for the Department of Surgery, but we are planning a lot of collaboration between internal medicine, different divisions, and the Department of Surgery. This includes 2 large animal ORs, a small animal OR, and a cath lab, and so on. So this basically would help a lot of our research investigators, as well as trainees, fellows who are interested in any kind of devices or surgical approaches to benefit from that space. More to come on that, and the grand opening is, we're hoping to be in January. Now I'll turn it over to Dr. Sime for her closing remarks.
Well, thanks for a great update, and thanks everyone for joining. It really is one of the jewels in the crown of our department. I think along with our clinical and education missions, it's really a privilege to be able to do the kind of research that you do every day. And that research really does take a team, and we've highlighted I think many faculty members and our trainees, but also not to forget our staff who really help us do all of the things that we do every day and are crucially important to all of our missions. And then thanks to our leadership, our School of Medicine and the Dean and VCU, we have Sriram Rao actually on the panel right now. I think the support of senior leadership for research is incredibly important, and we take our direction from there and just look forward to doing more and more in the future. This is an exciting time in medicine. We can do lots of things, and it was never more evident than in our response to COVID, where we were doing rapid clinical trials and rapid basic science. And it was really exciting. It was coming from all directions, across divisions. And I've never felt amazing teamwork like this ever in my career. The way that people stepped up and did this was truly amazing and made me immensely proud. And one of the other things I think is hugely important for us is the development of our trainees and the future researchers from clinical to basic research. And I think our pilot programs are really important in this, and the ability of our faculty and others to mentor trainees is hugely important and will be really key to our success, not just here at the university, but I think nationally and internationally. So just a lot of cheerleading today, and thank you so much for your efforts. And we can take any questions.
Thank you all so much. Yes, as I said in the chat, we can take any questions. If you can raise your hand, and we can unmute you. We'll stay tuned. Thank you, Dr. Rao. We appreciate your participation. You want to offer any words of wisdom to the Department of Internal Medicine? We appreciate it.
Thank you. I know I'm kind of last minute, but I appreciate the opportunity here. First of all, I've got to say, I have known, but hearing it and seeing the impressive success that the department has had over the course of the last 3 years, it's pretty astounding. So I want to congratulate each one of you across all the divisions who've contributed to this overall success. So because it's across the department. As Fadi was pointing out early on in his comments, and Dr. Sime said it, and Dr. Sterling and Dr. Salloum, all of them stressed on it. VCU overall has, it's kind of translated up all the way that VCU has shown a remarkable growth in its research enterprise just in the last year. So in the last 3 years, and we've grown by almost 100 million across the university. And that is impressive by any stretch. And as Dr. Salloum was saying, when you have growth like that, it's an interesting point and place to be, that you have to recognize that growth like that needs to be matched up with the resources to sustain it in a credible way. And so for those of you who were who had the time to join President Rao and I on with the conversation that we had about the current status and future of VCU Research, I want to emphasize that notion again, that as a research institution, we need to commit to what the entire enterprise needs, starting from our undergraduate students who are coming into and who want to join in the different research areas, to our graduate students. And I'll touch a little bit on the training programs that you were talking about. We clearly need to increase those, and opportunities really for our faculty-driven research, basic or applied or clinical, so that it truly has an impact. And increasingly, we are seeing that a lot of what VCU research that is coming out of this great institution is globally impactful. And we need to aggressively tell that story. So I think this new strategic plan that we are putting in place that will be implemented, several hundreds have been involved, including some from your own department and your own school that have participated in this effort. It is, I think, the starting of our effort to look at the institution as an overarching university where cutting edge research is done in thematic areas. And you know those 4 thematic areas. And I think the School of Medicine, some of you may view the piece about optimizing health as the most relevant one. That is true. But I see faculty from the School of Medicine and your department increasingly collaborating with folks across the university. And they're tied into each of these initiatives. So we will be investing in resources. Some of those we know what we have, and some they're still frankly being worked out, in investing in the infrastructure we need. Several of you depend on the OVPRI for several of the resources that you need, and we are continuing to ramp up both in terms of optimizing efficiency and the personnel available so that there are fewer delays. You've seen the impact of some of that on IRB that is continuing to evolve, and the timelines to approval for IRB have dramatically improved, and we are below the national AHARP numbers, and we continue to work in that area. And so we will, I would say, continue to invest in areas and expand some of the funding programs so they are further aligned with what you're all doing. So in addition to the resources that you are already committing, so programs such as Quest, so those of you who heard, I'm repeating, but those who weren't able to join, I believe the link for that presentation will be out soon. We will be expanding the Quest program, and the return on Quest, like your own internal program, has been very impressive. So it's been a 7-to-1 return on investment, and so we want to broaden that. So we will be increasing that, and please stay tuned. The other piece where your department and the School of Medicine has played a key role is in the technology commercialization side. And so a lot of the innovations that have come out have translated into moving it forward, either out-licensing it to other bigger companies, pharmas, or startups too. So we want to invest further in that area as well, so that you can take advantage of advancing through the proof of concept funding. The other area that I think will be frankly new is what we are referring to as accelerator funds. These are where you are almost ready, need some additional help to move these rapidly forward to tie into some big immediate funding opportunities. So we'll be supporting those kinds of activities. And then frankly, putting in money into what we are calling breakthrough or groundbreaking research that'll need to bring multiple PIs, multiple investigators together. So I think all of those opportunities are going to be announced soon. So please stay tuned. Any questions you have, Lisa Balance, several of you do. She is the point of contact, and so she'll be happy to answer any questions. So those are all forthcoming. And finally, to the piece about training grants, which has always been a challenge in terms of how do you help. So in addition to what you are internally doing, together with the graduate school, we are going to be appointing an additional point person whose primary role is going to be to assist with training grants. So please reach out to John Ryan with any of your interest in that area. The number of training grants that we have that have been submitted have gone up, and frankly, to the way you describe your data across the university, the number of grants that we are submitting has gone up, and we need to continue to build on that trajectory. So with that said, I'll conclude my brief overview, and thank you for the opportunity, but truly congratulate you all for the amazing work that you're doing that is so inspiring. People like us who are into administration and were once upon a time bona fide researchers, we need stuff like that to keep to feel that we are part of what is making a difference, but more importantly, to appreciate what you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rao, and thank you for being a good sport. I know you weren't prepared to talk, and we just invited you on because we saw you on the panel. So thank you so much. And
pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. Any questions? Sorry, Dr. Salloum, go ahead. Dr. Sterling.
We're just saying thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you all. I don't see any questions at this time, but just a reminder that the links and the presentation will be available online, and please reach out to anyone here if there are questions in regards to your research projects. Lots of good information in the PowerPoint today. Thank you all so much. That concludes the Internal Medicine Grand Rounds. Thank you to all of our panelists. We appreciate your help. Thanks, everyone. Take care.